Coming up tonight in news, Sarkis's Maryland's latest bid to reclaim Baha.
Residents are outraged that they are still without electricity and some without even water nearly 1 week after Hurricane Matthew. We have the details straight ahead.
Residents of South Beach put the pieces back together following Matthew. That story is coming up straight ahead.
Welcome to our news. I'm Dana Smith. Thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight. In a bid to regain control of the multi-billion-dollar Baha project, developer Sarkis's Maryland's company, BMD Holdings Limited, has notified the Export-Import Bank of China and Prime Minister Perry Christie that it is prepared to purchase the Cable Beach Resort at a higher price than the amount offered by the undisclosed buyer. This latest development comes nearly 2 months after Christie announced the government and the bank signed an agreement that would see the stalled project completed, sold, and opened before the end of the 2016-2017 winter season. BMD Holdings said in a statement today that it wants to move forward immediately with a formal offer at a price in excess of the current undisclosed offer. The company is also willing to pay 100% of all substantiated Bahamian claims and all monies owed to Bahamian and foreign employees. If its offer is accepted, BMD has promised to drop all of its appeals and legal actions in the Bahamian courts and will have the full funding necessary in place to meet the purchase price. In a letter to the president of China Exim Bank, Ismailian said he is confident that his offer is far superior economically and in the best interests of the Bahamas. Ismailian said it is time to put past disagreements behind them and asserted BMD can conclude this transaction with the bank with the fewest surprises in the shortest period of time. An estimated 48% of Bahamas Power and Light's residential customers on New Providence are still living in darkness following Hurricane Matthew. After 1 week of no electricity, many of them have reached their breaking point. Simone Davis reports.
Living without electricity, oh Jesus, this is a living hell.
Today marks day 6 for most residents who've been enduring long days and long nights without electricity and some without even water. Residents we spoke to today say they are frustrated and they don't know how much more they can take.
2 weeks they ain't gonna cut it, miss. They ain't gonna cut it. 2 weeks, we done been 1 week. We have nothing left in our fridge. We can't get water to flush toilets. What the government want me to do? This little baby, he doesn't take powder formula. He take liquid formula. He doesn't have any. I can't store none for him because it'll spoil.
Another resident in the Chippingham area said he's miserable without electricity. To make matters worse, he has to travel over a mile for water for his mother and siblings to bathe in.
I can't bathe and everything. I gotta go walking a mile away down the road to the water for the bathe in this dark house in the bathroom. Cockroaches be crawling and I done scared of them things. So the government need to please do something because I be getting biting from mosquito, I getting heat bumps, and they really need to do something.
This father of 4 says he's frustrated because he has young children to take care of, and it is hard to find food for them daily because all the food in his house rotted due to lack of electricity.
It's been really ridiculous because, you know, the children are very miserable and you can't buy any food to store in your refrigerators. You have to go to the food store every day, which is really kind of hard, especially with people with families.
Meanwhile, his 10-year-old daughter, CHAISE Ferguson, says she and her younger sister are afraid of the dark and can't sleep at night because of the heat and mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes is be biting and plus she's always nagged me to find her, but no current on, so I have to find her with my house so mosquitoes don't bite her.
Margaret Aubrey said her house suffered severe damage during Hurricane Matthew and electricity has yet to be restored in her area. She said she and her young children are only surviving because one part of their house is powered by solar energy.
Good thing if I get solar, but I don't have no water.
So I have to tow the water.
BPL CEO Pamela Hill said today power has been restored to 52% of residential customers on New Providence and 80% of commercial customers. BPL expects to restore power supply to 75% of residents by the end of this week. Reporting for our news, I'm Simone Davis.
Well, despite heavy warnings to evacuate their homes, most residents of South Beach chose to ride out the storm in their community. The area ended up being one of the hardest hit in New Providence. The Hour News team visited South Beach today to see how residents are coping with the aftermath. GIORGIO STURRUP reports.
Just about 1 week after Hurricane Matthew, residents here in South Beach are starting to put the pieces back together. Some residents have lost just about everything, having to fully gut their homes. Residents recall just how dangerous Matthew was, pushing several boats that were docked on the beach's shoreline all the way inland to the end of this corner. Refrigerators, stoves, mattresses, couches, computers, and bedroom sets sit piled high on just about every curb in South Beach. Seaweed and debris on walls and fences mark just how high the powerful sea surge was during Hurricane Matthew. Last week, Wednesday, Ronald Woodside was unfazed by Hurricane Matthew and called for South Beach residents to evacuate.
The reason why we stand is because I get a better idea about hurricane than most of these meteorology people who think they know what they're saying, but they don't know nothing what they're saying about hurricane. Hurricane is something that moves around in a cycle.
But now Woodside is singing a completely different tune.
The storm make a switch on me. If it had come from the south, just like I always say, it would come with it being all right. I did not the hurricane impact door button up because I wasn't expecting it, like, as you know. So when the surge come up, the surge, it beat on the door for a while. It couldn't knock the door down, so it popped the glass out. When it popped the glass out, the water just rushed through. Then it kicked down the front door. So the water just keep coming around in a cycle. That's because the water really ain't rising those.
Dale Brown, who left during the storm, was forced to return after his tenants called him crying. Water rose past the window and poured into one woman's apartment. Meanwhile, on the inside of Brown's home, there was 4 feet of water nearly covering his bed, and his front yard is now a parking lot for several boats that washed ashore.
This is where the watermark is. This is the watermark coming straight up here.
Jasmine Taylor has 3 young daughters, all under the age of 7, and says she's grateful that she was able to get out safely during the storm. She recalls seeing the water in her front yard come up past her doorknob.
It was the worst hurricane we ever had in the backyard. It was actually flooded out. We had to throw away the chairs, the fridge, everything.
Reporting for our news, I'm GIORGIO STURRUP.
It's clear this Christie administration has learned nothing from Hurricane Joaquin's teachable moments, according to Democratic National Alliance leader BRANVILLE MCCARTNEY. Sitting down with our news team this morning, McCartney accused the government of being ill-prepared for and slow to respond to Hurricane Matthew. He also called it unacceptable so many Bahamians are still without power.
I'm sorry, the teachable moment was not teachable. We didn't learn as a government.
McCartney said government's response to Hurricane Matthew has left much to be desired.
And I've spoken with a number of people who've lost homes, who've lost businesses, persons who don't have anywhere to lay their head at night. And I feel for them. I feel for them. And this is not a position we should be in, quite frankly.
He said as government officials pat themselves on the back, thousands of Bahamians across the country remain without the necessary food, water, and basic essentials, and much of New Providence remains in darkness.
And that is unacceptable, unacceptable. But you know what is also more unacceptable is that we are in this position as a country. Had we looked into alternative energy, we would not be talking about down poles and that sort of thing. We're not modern. We have a third world mindset leadership. This is an example. This is a pure example of it.
While Grand Bahama's already struggling economy has ground to a near halt, McCartney charged, we've heard nothing from the Prime Minister or the Minister of Grand Bahama on how, if at all, that island will recover, having sustained severe damage as a result of Matthew.
We're going to need help. We're going to need help. We can't help ourselves, obviously. And we're going to need some international help. And that call is going to have to be made. They're going to have to make an announcement that those areas are considered state of emergency.
McCartney's comments came as the Prime Minister made a second visit to storm-ravaged parts of Grand Bahama, and one day after an emergency order for affected islands took effect. The DNA leader dubbed the widespread devastation left behind by Matthew heartbreaking and said the government was obviously caught off guard again.
I don't think this government will learn from this. They have not learned from the previous storm. And it's going to take the next administration, the next government, a new government, to show how you prepare.
Coming up on our news, a look at restoration efforts on Grand Bahama, so stay with us.